Hello there, and welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm joined by Greg McLaughlin from the Rebel Base Card Podcast to discuss LEGO Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces of the Past. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another installment of Force Ghost Conversations. This is getting back into the Star Wars discussions. Yes, thank you very much for participating in our 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War series. And go check out those episodes, of course, too, in your podcast feeds. But it's time to get back into the bread and butter of what we do here around the podcast, which is talk about Star Wars primarily. And we have some new Star Wars. Kind of new, I guess. It is in the Lego Star Wars universe here, and if you remember from last year, we got an incredible new kind of, I guess, season of a show called Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, which is a great way to kind of play around with the creativity of Lego while also diving into a lot of what ifs in the Star Wars galaxy, which was spectacular. And we got a second season of sorts for that series, and that's the whole point of the conversation today. Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces of the Past. So it's a full-on spoiler discussion in our main topic discussion here, which will be on the other side of this content part here. And Greg McLaughlin from the Rebel Base Card Podcast is back in all glory to discuss that in its entirety. So we are thrilled to have you here for this conversation then. But before we get into that, we do have some news. And in terms of news, it was a pretty big one for Star Wars this week because amidst all of the controversy that Disney was having this past week, they also somehow dropped the trailer, the official trailer for the film The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is coming in theaters in May 22nd of 2026. So typically, like what we're going to do here is to watch the trailer. At least I'm going to watch the trailer. If you want to pull it up, I have the Star Wars YouTube channel keyed up, and I have headphones on, so you won't hear the audio, but you can hear me react to it a little bit here and hear my musings as things go on in the course of this trailer here. So we're going to start with this one, then we have another trailer after this, so get ready. If you want to pause the episode now again, go pull up the trailer if you want to watch along. But otherwise, here's a 5-second countdown, and we'll be right into it. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hit play. Looks like the Mando's going to the beach. Oh, there's that incredible score. Ludwig Göransson, I believe, is back to do the score for this thing. I don't know if this is just trailer music or not. There's an Anzellin. Saw them at D23 recently. Destination D23, that is. Sigourney Weaver. There's been a lot of Grogu in this so far. Very much teaser elements so far. A lot of butt kicking, a lot of action, a lot of pulpy characters. Grogu swimming. Zeb. Now that's the highlight of this trailer here, is really Zeb just going full on. Got to hear a yes from Rod of the Hutt, aka Stinky. Looks like some Iron Man-esque figures. A gladiator pit of sorts. And then there's this walker that is being destroyed, I should say. And falling down this ice cliff here. And the title sequence, The Mandalorian and Grogu, and it looks very pulpy in terms of the way that they did the font for presentation here. Forged for IMAX, and Grogu shooting off some green goo at this character that we will probably come to discover in the course of time in the series, or not the series, but in this movie. And I'm excited. That's a great trailer. I'm surprised they didn't showcase that a couple weeks ago at Destination D23 instead of showing what they shared at Star Wars Celebration. But, we got it. It's out live now. They've got several months, pretty much the entirety of the academic school year, if you will, by the time that it releases at this point. So very much looking forward to that. We're gonna get some more trailers probably along the way here. Um, don't really have a whole sense of the story here. Just kind of got the idea that the Mandalorian is going to be helping the New Republic out in the Outer Rim and destroying whatever remnants of the Empire that are out there. That's going to eventually forge into whatever Thrawn is doing out there. So maybe some teases for Ahsoka season 2 will be compiled into this, and ultimately the Dave Filoni movie that is coming probably the next couple of years with regards to all that. That'll wrap this kind of whole little shebang up. It'll be interesting to see how this thing kind of combines all these different through lines. Of course, Favreau, I think, is very, and Filoni too, is very aware of how to do such a thing with their previous work, whether it be Clone Wars or working with Marvel, etc. And I've heard a lot of complaints about this trailer that it's too much like the TV show. Also valid, but also at the same time, I think that this show is going to, or not this show, but this movie is going to be a real spectacle experience. That's kind of been the talking point from Jon Favreau anytime that he's up on stage, whether it be at a convention talking about it or online. Um, so I have high hopes for this thing. I can't wait for it. I'm going to be seated day one when it comes out. So be on the lookout for more Mandalorian Grogu content. There's also a trailer, not a trailer, but yes, a trailer, of course, but a poster is available on all over the internet, but particularly StarWars.com too, where you can find three instances where Grogu appears on the screen. Very much a pulpy. If you're a fan of pulp and pulp in movies, then this is exactly right up your alley. And I am. So this is definitely fitting that B movie serial vibe that really inspired a lot of Star Wars back in the day. So be excited for that. But we also got an official trailer for Star Wars Visions Volume 3, which comes out on October 29th. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to watch it, and I'm going to react as it happens live. And this is actually, I haven't seen it before. So this is going to be a fresh experience for all of us here. So get ready. If it's on the Star Wars YouTube page again, if you want to follow along, pause this now, pull it up, hit play when I say hit play, and then we'll be good to go from there. But all right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I should also note that I'm watching the English dub just for hearing it for the first time. I see the Ronin from the Duel. 9 celebrated anime studios. Yep, a lot of these are getting sequels from Visions Volume 1. Wow, that's a pretty cool lightsaber. Okay, they just showcased a couple of the studios that are here. Oh, yeah, the bear. I remember that from Celebration. I mean, this looks really great. The animation's really stepped up even over the last couple of years from where Volume 1 was at. Wow. Again, that dual one looks really great too, or at least whatever they're going to call the continuation of it. A couple of walkers. Looks like it's R2 and like some type of Rhapsody experience. Wow. Oof. The galaxy is bigger for sure. I like this. It's just playing in like the sandbox of Star Wars, but also not being confined to whatever is in canon these days. They very much have the duel, or at least whatever they're calling the sequel to it, at the forefront of this trailer. Maybe that's because it's launched the first one. Well, that's a cool X-wing. Yeah, Visions Volume 3, available October 29th. That's a pretty awesome little teaser there. And you can rest assured that when it comes out, we will actually be covering Visions Volume 3. And then we'll, of course, do the fun look back at Visions Volumes 1 and 2. We also have some other things on the whiteboard coming up, too. So that's exciting. We got Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces of the Past now. We have a little bit of a break in between there. And then Visions Volume 3 at the end of October. And then that'll lead us right into pretty much some more Visions talk in November, and then looking at Force Awakens 10-year anniversary, couple of conversations set up throughout all of December. So that is our coming calendar outlook here for that. So be excited for all that. Make sure you're staying tuned. Force Ghost Conversations are available on all the social media platforms: X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky. Just search for us. We'll be there, and we'd love to continue the conversation with you on those platforms. And with that, without further ado, let's get into our full main topic discussion: Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy Piece of the Past with Greg McLaughlin. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast, folks, and welcome back to your regularly scheduled Star Wars podcast. Because, as you probably have been wondering over the last couple of weeks, when are we going to start talking about the War in the Stars again? And rest assured, you have been patient. You lasted through 4 weeks of World War II related content, and now you're back in the Star Wars of it all. And what better way to get back into the Star Wars with technically some new Star Wars? It's been a while since we had anything on the new front since Andor came out. And of new things, it's Lego. So we are rebuilding this podcast, if you will, brick by brick. And to help us with building that together, we've got Greg McLaughlin for the Rebel Base Card podcast back on the show. Greg, how are you doing? And welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations.
Good, good. And yes, what a flurry of activity it has been lately. I just got back from Ocala, the horse capital of the world,
It
apparently. I
sure
was
is.
schooled on
Yep.
that. And man, there's lots of ranches and horse farms, horses, supposedly. And yeah, the World Equestrian Center, where Ocala Comic Con was quite an event. You had the Rebels reunion, as well as having Katie Sackhoff and Emily Swallow and Nika Fetterman, and so and that was and they still had a cancellation or two, but what a weekend! And like I said, I cut a little audio. Reactions crew cut a little audio. It was a surgical strike down and back, but a great event. And it also goes to show in Central Florida, the cons have really grown and have become very plentiful, and that's good for your neck of the woods, and I think a good healthy market for folks who want to get out and see the War in the Stars in their own hometown.
That's right. That's right. Or if you want to take a trip to the horse capital of the world, then you best of both worlds. If you're a horse lover and a Star Wars lover, you can really live out your dreams there in Ocala, Florida here. Um, that is great. I was listening to the reactions pod before hopping on here, and it was lovely to hear you, Aaron, and David chat it up and to hear about the stories that took place up there. It seemed like it was a great con, and you guys got to see a lot of people from the War in the Stars, if you will, and um, a small intimate venue is a great place for that, right? And I think you've been to smaller cons, you've been like to an ICCC that has that kind of same of feeling approach to it, if you will, where you can walk past people on the floor several times, and you're like you just wow, it's this person. Okay, it's this person. Oh, hey, Vanessa Marshall. Hi, how you doing? Which
Yeah,
it sounds like you got to up close and personal with Vanessa over the weekend here.
yeah, I had a little excess cash, and the lines for Steve Bloom were like solid the entire time, and he stayed extra after. I think probably on both nights, just because he does so much stuff. He's very prolific. All of them are. But his popularity is amazing. I mean, he gets up here a lot for the anime conventions and so forth. But there were times where the rest of the Rebels crew, the lines were next to none. And towards the end of Saturday, I was able to meet Vanessa Marshall, and I thought, well, you know what, I'll have her do a bumper. Like she had the
Hmm.
offering to do a little audio. But in talking with her, and I had my little script up there, and the reactions group, boy, they got a nice riff from her. I stay on target. But speaking of ICCC, when we got to go a couple years ago, I had done one of my swag cards of their Rebels reunion panel, and I was able to give her a copy of that card because it's one of those things. Like I said, you know what, you're a collector, I know, and I thought you might appreciate this, and she really liked it. I think I also gave Tia Sakar because I had a couple extra with me.
Nice.
That are outside, some extra printings outside of the swag packs. And I gave Vanessa Marshall a swag pack. I'm like, you know what? Why not? Just go for it at this point. But I would say sometimes when it's kind of low, even the handlers, because I was wearing my C3 D2 T-shirt, it's like it didn't
Mhm.
make sense in '77 either, and then wire kind of that's kind of nice thing when it's a little mellow, you can have a lot of fun. Same thing it did with Neil's dad in London, where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go up and shake hands with Neil's dad while he was kind of like signing autographs and stuff, and get a selfie with him. I'm like, why not? You know.
Why not indeed? That's the answer, right? It's not really a question, you just go for it. And, that's what these y the I guess the explosion of smaller level cons, if you will, started around 2015, 16, almost with the resurgence of Star Wars, right? You have your local con, probably the bigger one in the larger city in your area started to populate with them every so often, and now they're getting big name talent all across the country to come to these things. It's a very lucrative business for the talent. Honestly, they're trying to get
Hmm.
a couple of signatures and some pictures, and they realize that they have a part to play in this too. But for the fans, if you can find the right con and really get a good deal on a lot of these different things, it's a great experience for everybody. I mean, I was able to get a Work Davis autograph for $50, which I think is a steal these days. Um, and, particularly as this podcast, I don't know if you were able to, but, we are technically considered members of the press in very many of
Hmm.
these places too, which is also an added benefit of access that, we may not be able to get, like a Star Wars Celebration or a New York Comic Con D23. But at these smaller places where there maybe not be so many people, quote unquote, attending from that capacity, you know, they're here, take a press badge, take a media badge. You're all in it. You're gonna record and do an episode about it. We'll take it. And I did that at ICCC last year. I know you did it at ICCC and many other places too, which is also a great experience for our branding and getting us out on in the public space.
Well, it also means that whether you're not you're approaching celebrities or just talking to, vendors and other guests, it does kind of help give you that, hey, look, I'm not just, I'm not
Authenticity, yeah.
just a little bit of authenticity. So I'm not just, Joe Blow out there. And, the more shows that we do, the more podcasts we do, just give us that credibility because we have a nice catalog to go, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm here just to learn more and help you out. And, sometimes you can get very fortunate, but for the most time, it's like, look, like especially at large cons like C2E2, I'm like, I'm going to go there. I'm going to do a show about it. You can help me out, but it doesn't
Yeah.
get in my way either way. I'm like, hey, it's great if I could get some passes for free. Who wouldn't like that? But for the most part, I'm like, this is how I enjoy cons. I enjoy going up, talking to people, learning about stuff. And if you want to give me a press pass for it, if it works out, even better because like that way it just kind of lowers the barrier on both sides and it makes it enjoyable. And
Mhm.
in which case, yeah, these small to mid-sized ones can just be incredible gems for us. And it was a good time. I'm looking forward to going back next year, maybe spending a little longer, maybe going to both days. And I might not walk away with a banner from Nika Fetterman like David Myers did, but hey, dare to dream, folks, dare to dream.
You never know what'll happen. And in many ways, things that we didn't think would happen this week, I have to get your thoughts on this, Greg, before we dive into Lego Star Wars,
Sure.
is we got a trailer for Mandalorian and Grogu. The long-awaited trailer. Many of us have probably either heard of or seen a leaked footage of what came out in Star Wars Celebration a few months ago, but this is an entirely almost new trailer. It has some resembling footage from that previous iterations of trailers that they showed. But what are your immediate reactions on that highly anticipated Star Wars film coming out in May?
It it was interesting. I wouldn't say I was floored because we have seen a little bit of this footage already. Now, it was
Hmm.
interesting that I think that some people, you know, kind of reached out and was like, "Oh, hey, Sigourney Weaver," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess that wasn't necessarily common knowledge for just the folks who would enjoy a Star War, but not necessarily like they're not in hip deep like we are." Um,
What do you
I
mean they don't
would
have 4 podcasts on their computer ready to go?
slackers is what they are. Um, but I would say I don't think I was overwhelmed. I'll do the hot take.
Hmm.
Because I think that the volume was really the volume really kind of ushered in kind of a new way to do it, a way to do the Star Wars on TV. and the
Mhm.
stories have been good. I know that, season 3 was a little up and down, but for the most part, I think everyone's been pretty satisfied with The Mandalorian, and who wouldn't wanna see more, Mandalorian and Grogu? It's interesting the way that the show has been titled, and if you saw, like, I think you brought it up, like, the number of times you saw Grogu on the poster and in the trailer, it was pretty clear. They're like,
Front and
"Hey,
center.
you remember you like Baby Yoda? You love Baby Yoda, you're right, we got Baby Yoda in spades." And so on the one hand, I would say, like, I kind of liked, at the end of season 3 with Mando and Grogu on, like, he's just watching the kid play on the lawn, and you go, "Great." But on the other hand, I'm like, it's it's an adventure that I think that they can cash in on. It'll only look better. The story will, will probably have a beginning. We won't walk out going, "I wonder what happens next week on the next Mando Grogu." No, it'll be,
Yeah.
what I'm hoping it kind of moves some of that universe's story forward. It'd be interesting whether it wasn't necessarily going to be an adventure of the week, but just longer and on a bigger screen.
Mhm.
You'd kind of hope that there's some hooks in there. Um, but I liked what I saw. It should be a great romp, and I think after the break we've had, everybody will be not only wanting to see more Star Wars, but Star Wars back in the theater. I mean, how much did Revenge of the Sith, make? And I think they were holding back. They could have probably had that in theaters a lot longer,
Could
and
have.
they would have. I think they turned off the spigot a little
Well,
too
they
early on
wanted
that.
to compete with Thunderbolts the
Mm.
following week.
It's like people will go see it, like, it's not like, I mean, for me, it's like I don't see a ton of movies a year, but it doesn't mean that if there was 2 good mo I'm gonna go see, you put Star Wars, I don't care what movie you throw up there, I'm gonna go watch it in the theater. I remember even seeing like, when we got to go to the Acolyte premiere, that was a gas.
Mhm,
I mean, you
mhm.
could take some of these TV shows, and if you wanted to, like, yeah, just run them in the theaters. I mean, like, I'd go see it, because it's
Yeah.
fun to watch Star Wars on the big screen. It'll be fun, for Mando and Grogu. Like I said, it's one of those where I'm like, "Okay." I think just like with Starfighter, I'm like, now I'm just sort of cautious, like, "Hey, great, let's do it," you have more experience in this. You know what you're doing. You've seen the results that we haven't seen. You know, the onus is on you to get this right. So, best of luck for you. And we'll be there regardless, probably 2 or 3 times. And so, but I'm not the one you have to really go after. It's the folks, if you really want to make that $1 billion, end game type money, then you really need to really put the product in. And this is probably why this was the safest bet. And then it can, then whatever happens after that, Starfighter's probably another. Ryan Gosling's is bankable money right there, but anything outside of that, it'll be real interesting real fast.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it was a big win for people that like the pulpy nature of Star Wars, right? If you like
Mhm.
the wacky characters, the side character that maybe got a half second in Return of the Jedi and the in Jabba's palace, they are front and center in this. If you were a big fan of Clone Wars and Stinky, guess what? You're gonna be in for a great ride here. And it's interesting that so many like The Mandalorian helped hold our hands, as Disney not Disney, but Star Wars went away from the theatrical model for so long, right? It came out in 2019 prior to Rise of Skywalker, and then through the pandemic, it was kind of that chugging along thing that launched Disney Plus and then kept it afloat for that time. And now it's saying, "Hey, we're gonna hold your hand back into the theater as we introduce this new era of Star Wars on the big screen." Now, I don't know what really beyond Ahsoka season 2, what the future holds for the Disney Plus landscape. And the only thing that I'm curious about when it comes to how this film, when it comes out and how it performs, obviously you and I will be there opening night, if not really close to it. Um, is will it get that general audience member that is like, "Oh, the thing on my Disney Plus?" I've seen an episode or 2 of The Mandalorian, and then they see it on the big screen, they're like, "Is it worth going out to see that?" Uh, and this is honestly a great compliment to how good the TV show looks, because I'm hearing the biggest complaint that I hear from people on social media and across the platforms is that it looks just like another episode of The Mandalorian, right? And I'm like, that's because they went out of their way to develop great technology to make theatrical Star Wars for a television medium, and that episodic format that they championed over there, and now they're trying to just do it again on the bigger screen here too. Well, I don't know if there'll be enough of a distinction that people are like, I gotta go see that on the big screen, or if they're like, I can just wait and call it Mando season 4 and watch after that. Um, and then it'll be interesting too because I'm sure there'll be people that go and see it that have never seen an episode of The
Mhm.
Mandalorian, so how will they do that, like, homework of, "Hey, you don't need to see anything coming into this movie, but here's a little bit of the backstory just in case you were under a rock for the last 6 years." That'd be an interesting perspective to have. I don't know that that person exists out there, and there will be a person that ends up doing this, but it's like, who's that person that hasn't kept up with anything of the Marvel universe and then walked into Endgame and was like, "What am I in here for?"
Well, and we have seen such a shift in Disney Plus. I mean, even up into last week, you know, with the events of the outside world taking place on it, and people
Yes,
like,
yes.
people, voting with their wallets, so to speak. So you're talking, now, what about another 7, 8 months away? That's a long time now in the in this streaming landscape of, is it going to complement one or the other? And just like you said, I saw Thunderbolts on the plane. I enjoyed Thunderbolts a lot,
It's a good movie.
and I saw Fantastic Four in the theater. Did I? Yes. And I saw Superman. When they did the early release on digital,
Mhm.
like I said, enjoyed all of them. But I'm like, there's still a lot of convenience for someone like myself to go. As much as I want to see it now, that Tron Ares, different story. That's a movie I'm excited about, and I will go see in a very expensive manner. It does not matter. I am that much of a Tron nut that I just really enjoy that, and I will want to see that. But like, I am still cautiously optimistic on the plot, and Jared Leto is a wild card for me. Until he kind of delivers, I'm holding back. But on the one hand, I'm like, that is something that I will go see in IMAX. Star Wars, it'd be great, it might be something where I might go watch it once in IMAX. I might go watch it and be like, because there are different
Mhm.
formats for it,
Mhm.
watch it in 3D once. It kind of depends upon the schedule. But, there are some of these franchises that you're like, I'm going to go out of my way to see, and I'll go out of my way to see multiple times. But on some of these, I'll go see Mandalorian and Grogu 3 times. That's usually my stock. I've been doing that for decades now just because it's fun,
Mhm.
and you kinda get that. You like, you wanna make sure you don't get spoiled. You wanna go back and see what you missed the first time, and then you go back just because, right? Um, but it'll be interesting. Will it kinda be that, like, "Oh, that's nice. That's really fun," or will it be like when I walked out of, let's say, for example, Rogue One, and I was, I was a basket case because that thing just blew me away and blew away any of my expectations for it, of, like, all these unknown actors and, characters you never heard of. What can they
Yeah.
do? Will Mandalorian and Grogu elevate the story or their story enough? Will there be stakes? Will they play it? Like, it's just so many things. I mean, it's oft. I'm happy that the trailer's out. I almost made it a point not to watch it, but I was like, you know what? It's nothing I haven't probably already seen. I may skip one of the later trailers just to go, you know what? I'd rather not, I'd rather go in knowing less. And especially if you're in the community like we are, it's hard not to be spoiled with some of that because we're always kind of,
Yeah.
our radar's always out, and a lot of the accounts we follow, even like on the ones on the fringe, a lot of times it's hard not to be spoiled by this. But um,
And
it'll be
every podcast's
interesting.
gonna talk about it too.
Exactly. So yes, if I wasn't somebody podcast deep, I would probably have been bugging Greg Cast to like, hey, let's talk about it. Greg will be probably talking about this. Don't worry. But yeah, yes, we have a lot more going on at the moment with Second Breakfast and all
Somewhere in
that stuff.
between second and or helpings.
I'm going to forget what podcast I'm going to be on and we're going to be talking about. But I'm just glad that I can still get the line when Anthony King says it's time to talk. I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Let's do it.
That's right, that's right, and folks, let's get to what we're actually here to talk about today, which is Lego Star Wars: Rebuild the Galaxy: Pieces of the Past, and that's an interesting title for basically Lego Star Wars: Rebuild the Galaxy Season 2. But before we dive into the discussion about Season 2, Greg, I do wanna get your thoughts about Season 1. Did you watch Season 1? I don't know if you did or not. I can't remember if there was a breakfast pack on that one. I think there might be, but
We
okay, I'm
did.
getting a nod, so it seems like there's a correct nature there. What are your memories of that? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Forget about it very soon after it dropped? Like, what was the mantra over the McLaughlin house on this one?
Well, it was interesting that you mentioned that, and I saw in your list of questions because I didn't see the last Lego holiday special before. I think I saw the first one,
Mm,
and then the second one, I think I'm like, okay, I like the little cameos, but it was kind of one of those where it was a self-enclosed story, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's cute. But I didn't really feel that need to see it because I'm like, okay, it's another something around a holiday. It's kind of cute, but to me, it didn't really feel like it went anywhere. Then I
yeah.
watched, Rebuilding the Galaxy season one, and I was like, okay, now we're getting a story. There are 4 episodes. They're about a half hour each. And it was interesting, some new characters.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the thing that I think that we talked about this is the fact that it's like it was, although the story had a lot of meat to it, it's still like, when your kids, get a bunch of Legos, or we get a bunch of Legos where you first start cutting and put it together where you are, and then you just kind of like free form it. And it's kind of like people picking up their toys and they kind of mash things together and in a very
Yeah.
creative way. And I did see I didn't watch all of the Lego animated stories. Was it the Freemakers? I did see a few
Yeah.
episodes of
Freemaker
that.
Adventures, yeah.
Yeah, Freemaker Adventures, and I like that. But it wasn't necessarily something that I felt like. It's kind of like with Young Jedi Adventures, going, okay, they're doing it. It's that kind of demographic. It's going to be there if I want, but it wasn't something where I felt like it was appointment viewing. But after I kind of got done with Rebuilding the Galaxy season one, I'm like, I really like this. I thought the voices, they really brought it. I think they
Yeah.
could have gone. There's obviously actors that they have replaced the voice for, but with all the drop in names and Mark Hamill lending it to it, I'm like, okay, this is for reals. And then you had Ahmed Best in there, so that was kind of fun. And like I said, the original characters were really well done. I liked Jedi Bob. Of course, I know he comes from like the original Lego set,
Mhm.
the Jedi Starfighter set, or whatnot. But yeah, I enjoyed the first season. It was a surprise, and it was kind of interesting when they announced. I think what one of the 1,500 announcements at earlier this year at Celebration Japan, like, oh yeah, there's going to be another one. You're like, you could have blinked and missed
Yes.
it.
It was, very much thrown in there amidst, like, Darth Jar Jar being on Fortnite or something like that, and, Visions Volume 3 and, the expanded Visions universe that they're kinda doing over the next couple of years. Uh, yeah, it was just kind of thrown in the midst of things, and we're like, "Okay, I guess a release date's coming soon," but then with the slog of, "Okay, here's Andor, here's Light Magic Season 2, here's Tales of the Underworld, here's Revenge of the Sith back in cinemas again. Oh, everything else at Star Wars Celebration, books, comics, TV, trailers, what have you, like, it was just one thing amidst the entirety of it all and got lost in a very busy summer, and then they're like, "Hey, it's coming out in, like, next week." Like, "Oh, snap, we're here. We're ready for this, I guess." But and then
Well, and
same thing is gonna happen with Visions Volume 3 come end of October too.
it's gonna sneak up on us. And I'm also wondering. I'm like, did you ever get a chance to put together that dark fountain you got at D23?
Still sitting over there. I did not. Ti ti Between that and reading The High Republic, I am behind. I am behind on some things here. I had to watch all these World War II movies and TV shows to get over the last month.
I think somebody actually talked to me about the Dark Falcon Lego set, not realizing it was from an actual series. And I think that's
Okay,
something where
yeah.
you go, that's something right there that, you get that appeal for, like, who wouldn't dig a black Millennium Falcon with these crazy characters on it? And, oh yeah, by the way, I'm like, oh, there's a series about it. So that tells you that there's some smart cookies over there at Lucasfilm and Lego.
Absolutely, and I think this is a great series exactly for what it does. I think it's they ran out of holidays, So they had to think a little bit outside the box there. They weren't just gonna make, Flag Day in Star Wars the special, even though I'm sure they could do something pretty cool with it. I think they made the right choice in pivoting to more of this long form series kind of structure with it all. And I think season 1 is really great and, somewhat forgettable, but it's not a canon story, so we don't really need to devote all that brain power to constantly thinking about it. When I think of it, I think fondly of, "Oh, they did some fun outside the beat path kind of Star Wars things and made some in-universe jokes that are really funny to you and I that are kind of in this space a lot. And if I ever need it, I can go back to it. And it's going to be there as long as my Disney Plus still exists. And I'm glad that it got a season 2 because I think it good enough that it deserved that, and it ended on such an excellent cliffhanger of like, well, this is the world we're in now. We gotta forge our way forward in this new landscape. The galaxy that you knew before doesn't exist anymore, so let's keep going. We gotta find that cornerstone and see what we can do with this now. And, they went off with it. And, going into my next question here, this series serves as this kind of quote unquote "what if" um, in Star Wars. And do you think that Lego is perhaps the best avenue by which to tell that type of story? I know Marvel does it and it's kind of like a canon adjacent kinda thing, like, it's in the MCU, but I think what do you think about it being the Lego Star Wars kind of way of doing that kind of fun, rompy way about it?
I like this question, and for one, what if for me started with seeing the comics. I think of the mid to late '70s, early '80s, where what if they have done the
Mhm.
comics version of that, a few different times, and the only problem is it just never really ends well, and that's the only thing that I think even with season 2 of the animated series, in which I absolutely loved the animation style, some of
Yeah,
the
me too.
stories, but it was super dark. But I kind of felt myself going, it's hard to kind of like get sucked up in because it's like, okay, the universe is going to end again. I think there was only one of the stories that I could touch base with, because some of the earlier stuff, like I've read some of the comics that correspond to that, and I think in season 2, we had Aurora from the X-Men Storm as God of
Mhm.
Thunder, and I that was one of my first X-Men was from Annual 9 back in 1986, where
Nice.
the X-Men were in Asgard, and I'm like, okay, I do need to go and watch that part. Uh, but for me, I would say as far as the rebuilding the galaxy, I think it's a little different in that one, just going back to your previous question, it was great to have this season 2 because I think that's for me where Visions, which is great at the moment you watch it, is almost a little
Mm.
disposable because you're
Mm.
never gonna. I mean, outside of season 3, which will have some return, and
Yeah.
that's what I like about it. As great as these one-offs are, I want to know more. Obviously, Ronan got a book from season 1 of Visions, but some of these
Sure.
you go, you're introducing me, and for a very short time, I get very, like we all want to like root for the good guy, root against the bad guy, or root for the bad guy if we really like that bad guy. But it's just kind of like once it's done, it's done. Here we got to see, we know some of these characters from season 1, and I go, okay, maybe it's not going to be. I mean, it's clearly universe shattering, or breaking and rebuilding, but really the stakes for me aren't going to be that high. It's an animated series. It's an animated Lego series.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
as far as like a what if, there is to me that connection because of things they were able to get away with, like with Darth Jar Jar, right? There was always that sort of
Yeah.
like that Reddit or the news group themes about, was he a Sith? Great, but as far as what if Luke was a beach bum, or a very prototypical, you know someone who is, like some of these older guys when I'm down in Florida and I see like, you've been a Floridian a very long time,
Yes.
and not a knock again,
Some
but
shoe
it's just one
leather
of those.
skin. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little hair's a little greasy, the skin's a little leathery, and possible chain smoker. But yeah, that's it's, to me, that's not so much of a what if, but it is nice that with the rebuilding the galaxy, they can bring in so many different characters. They can bring it, and and not just the minifigs, the Ahsoka, the brickheads. which I collected
Mhm.
for a time. I still have a number of. I'm like, that was such a great addition. The large scale ones for Chewbacca, and later on when we talk about the other one, I don't want to kind of give it away just yet. That was really smart. And then even introducing some to me looked like an original character, an
Mm.
original, villain, in addition to, the
Yeah.
Darth Revan minifig, which by the way I own. And if I would have left it in the poly bag, I could have sold it for a lot of money because that was one of those
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
in Target and all of a sudden, why is Darth Revan here? And then later on you go, oh, you mean I can get $60 for that? Dang it. Okay. Next time I'll remember, it's like go buy the poly bag, even if you don't think it's gonna be worth anything, and hold on to it, kids, because it's like printing
It's a
money.
good investment.
Good investment. Your $5 is going to get you a lot more than $5. But as far as like being a what if, I think if they were to go back and take legends, like maybe key or core legend stories, I think even if you talk to those folks who read a lot of legends, there's one to go, that's fine. We're good on that story. But there are some things that you could do either as a Visions and call it Legends, or do it as an animated series. I think it would be a
Mhm.
winner because the stories are already there. You just have to basically adapt them for animation, and then you can kind of go to town. Or you don't even have to go. What if like just do Shadows of the Galaxy or Shadows of the Empire? Clean it up maybe a couple spots. You could do Dark Empire. That would be
Mhm.
wicked awesome. And do it. You've got all these great animation styles that have already kind of been laid out. If you took like if you went back and let's say a Vision season 4 going, all right, it's not that we, like here we would like to try to see your interpretation of these legends stories. Do them however you like. It may not a one and done might be fine with them. That to me is a better version of a what if because I think that's a better way to tell that story that I think
Mhm.
that people who had invested their time in those legend stories, to me, I think they're already there. You don't have to kind of come up with new stories. They're already out there. I think it would be a fun take on them, and it'd be a way to kind of acknowledge it, just like we saw with Jackson, near and dear to my heart. In this series, I'm like, I get it. He's not coming back. It's a great running gag. It was awesome to see him in this, and it was just kind of fun. And I like that they kind of took that vein with him. Now, do I need a full Jackson story? Probably not. But I think this was a great way to introduce some of these characters that let's face it, Darth Revan, Jackson, those are Legends
Mhm.
characters. So you're not too far from. I think if there were a few stories, like even if you took like some of the old Republic, video game thing, and you just say, hey, we just kind of want to redo this. Instead of like going back and getting the game and just seeing all the animatics, just like I think we could kind of tell that story in a current visual style,
Mhm.
animation wise, and I think people would just lose their minds. I mean and I
Got
think
it.
that's a great way for Disney Plus to go, look, this is not maybe a cinematic thing, but this could be sure as heck be, animation that you could use, you could do for years, and people would just be happy with it.
Yeah, feed the beast, right? We you want us to keep these streaming platforms. You gotta so find that balance between throwing things in the theaters and also making sure that people have a reason to stay
Hmm.
tuned to those subscriptions, right? Otherwise, people are going to drop them or reduce it to the ad tier or whatever lower tier, right? Because they're like, I don't need this, and look at to bundle with anything to make sure that they have the bare minimum amount they need, um, while also like try and get the lowest price possible too, right? It's we're always trying to game the system as consumers, and they need to, on the other side, give us a reason to stay in tune to what they have offered here. And I think that's a great way to um, keep us engaged with the storytelling that they're doing and the content that they want to produce for us. And as fans, I think we'll eat it up. I think if this got a second season, then it certainly shows that there is a fervor for more out of the box storytelling. If Vision's got three
Hmm.
seasons, wait, that doesn't seem like an easy sell to a large audience on paper, right? But it's been really successful, and it's getting spin-offs and continuing tales, and I'm glad that it's doing really well too. So sky's the limit, frankly. So I think as Star Wars animation continues to ramp up, because they got that Maul series in the works too, and they'll probably got some Tales of something coming around May 4th next year too. Um, who knows? Who knows? Maybe the tales of the what if could be around the corner. Tell some tales of legends, right? Could be something, and then they could do some wacky adventures with those type of characters from long gone stories. But could be certainly an interesting avenue by which to explore other types of things in the Star Wars sandbox without really being too tied down to like where does it fit in the Skywalker saga? Is it before the Acolyte? Is it after the Acolyte? Is the Acolyte still a thing?
It's
Where's Starfighter fit, right? All this stuff. We don't need to
exactly.
question that.
Yeah, it doesn't cost you I mean, like, Visions probably costs you more to do than, let's say, a Tales of or Rebuilding the Galaxy, but it's certainly not competing with getting butts in the seats to see your films. And so
Yep.
this is a great way to, you know, keep us, like you said, kind of connected to Disney Plus. We enjoy the series, but we don't have to worry like, like that's just to me, it's you're printing money at that point, and you're not competing with yourself.
Yep. So picking up from season one, season two positions the brothers Sig and Dev as a force dyad. And cutting to the chase here, did you also full spoiler alert, everyone? We're talking spoilers now for this. If you haven't seen it, go watch it on Disney Plus. 'Cause I'm about to break a big part of the story here that happens, I believe, in episode 3 or so. But did you believe in Dev's betrayal? Did you ever think he'd come back to the fray, or did you think, oh, he's too far gone. He's the power hungry grab kind of person. What'd you think of Dev in this?
I think had I gone back and watched season one and seen where Dev and Sig end up, because I was sitting there like, oh, they're on opposite sides again, and I was like, all right, that's kind of bad on me. I should have done a little more of my homework there, but I didn't necessarily think it was unbelievable. It kind of made sense, and you started seeing the story beats, and you go, okay, now that kind of makes sense. And although I didn't think it was going to last, um, I don't think it was uncharacteristic for him, just like we as with the rest of the Sith gang, you know, regardless of where the chips are, they play pretty close to form, and so no, it didn't necessarily, it wasn't unbelievable to me, and I was fine with it, and I did like the fact that, oh yeah, that's another way to kind of put a dyad in there, and I'm like, ah, very clever.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I think so too. I think it was a great way to give um, a nod to a thing that in episode 9 people scratch their heads about. And I think we still don't really fully know what it means, but do we really know what the prophecy for Anakin really mean? What's the chosen one prophecy? What prophecy misread? Who knows, right? There are dyad in the force, two that are one, right? Yin and yang. Because of their strength,
Hmm.
they complement each other in this kind of thing, right? It makes kind of sense from a large theoretical standpoint, and to play with it here in this space a little bit more, it arguably kind of makes a little bit more sense, right? With the brothers of it all, and them being one being a Sith and one being a force builder, force breaker, that kind of thing. To build, to break. It's kind of the yin and yang of it all. Um,
And I kind of enjoyed that where it's like, okay, no, I get it.
yeah,
And I like that connection between between siblings or just folks who that relationship. And I thought that was a clever way to kind of bring that back in and go,
absolutely.
okay, that's probably gonna how you're gonna have to defeat the baddie in this. And it's clever. One's a breaker, one's a builder, and you're like, okay, that's it's a nice way to kind of tie it in. And it was hard. It was a hard sell, I think, in Revenge of the no, the Rise of
Rise of Skywalker.
Skywalker.
Yep.
Um, but this we had a little more chance to kind of, to explore that, and so and they didn't belabor the point.
I agree. I agree. And I think yeah, they did a fun job of kind of playing with that kind of story there, and it worked for the grander theme of how they're able to defeat the villain of this, which is Solitus. So this is a new villain that's introduced into this story here. And what did you think of this new character voiced by Dan Stevens?
I really liked it. I thought, it was a nice introduction, and it was interesting because, with the Acolyte, we get teased with Darth Plagueis at the very end, and you go, "Oh,
Yes,
that
with
would
some
have been
creepy
interesting."
fingers and whatnot.
Yeah, we got creepy fingers and a nice long gaze, but we were also kind of teased with the relationship between Vernesta Rowe and the stranger, and that I think to me it was kind of interesting to kind of revisit a relationship between a former master and Padawan in this case, Um, he was master for, Jedi Bob, as well
Mhm.
as to bringing on. And so it's interesting that although I don't think anyone was really asking. It's like, hey, I can't wait till someone trains someone else to be a Jedi. It was nice that they kind of brought over that kind of relationship, that kind of that consistency that we would be getting. And I think it's a relationship that we can kind of buy into. Go, oh, okay, that makes sense. It that kind of got started with Yoda and Count Dooku from Attack of the Clones, and so it
Yeah.
was kind of nice to see it. I thought he did a nice job. I liked the what his goals were, right? He was just trying to get some peace and quiet, and who wouldn't want that? And look, I just want a house where there's just nothing there. Um, but I felt that that character was a nice addition. Uh, I was curious maybe if they've modeled it off of a Legends character, um,
Mm. Yeah.
but I'll let some of my brethren who have and sister who have done a lot more reading on that than I have to maybe see if there are some parallels. But I'd be curious if this one shares any traits.
Yeah, I don't know that either. Between a whole series that has so many Easter eggs and funny references and inside jokes, right? You gotta think that there's at least something that they pulled from the Lucasfilm archive or something in Story Group that, maybe a sketch drawing perhaps that was Ralph McQuarrie did in a margin of a piece of paper on a Post-it note back in 1976 or something like that, right? Led to the creation of this. That sounds very much like a Dave Filoni kind of thing. Like, oh, I guess we'll throw this guy in the background and call it a day. But maybe there's something to say with that. But I will say yes and to everything there you mentioned. I think this guy was really great. And I gotta say, Dan Stevens' voice was really a
Hmm.
menacing sell on this kind of character overall, right? I was like, wow, this isn't well, first I had to like kind of retrain my brain because I was thinking, is this Sam Witwer? And like, no, it's not. No, it's not. This is Dan Stevens, and I'm like, this is the Beast from Disney's live action Beauty and the Beast, and Legion, and other cool things that Dan Stevens has done over the years. And it's like, man, this guy's really doing an excellent job here at bringing this new character to life and being really menacing and whatnot. And just kind of being one step ahead of everybody when it came to almost towards the end there of knowing everything that was going to come to pass and whatnot, and then he couldn't expect Deb to be a double agent, double crosser kind of deal. Um, but that's kind of villainy for you. They just never see the full swing of things, and that's what it brings their downfall eventually. Is that their hubris overcomes them. But I thought, yeah, he was excellent. I liked his interplay with Jedi Bob, right? The like, you didn't give me a chance, and he's like, you were gonna do terrible things, so I had to expel you from this galaxy. Um, so I thought that was a really interesting thing, and I did play off some other relationships that, yeah, as you mentioned, that are within canon of Star Wars, but to that we didn't really get to see, right? Didn't get to see that acolyte kind of relationship play out to the full extent that we would have hoped to on the series, and Dooku Yoda, right? Those kind of lost relationships over time, right? And I think this really got a chance to play with that and scratch that itch a little bit that I've been hoping to see some of those things in the near future here. So um, yeah, Solidus, and he may still be out there. Maybe he comes back in a season 3, but we'll put a pin on that one for just a little bit here, as we may have a question about that in the future. So, in true Lego fashion, Greg, no idea was a bad idea. Which character variation were you most excited to see in Pieces of the Past?
Hands down, I would say I was excited that I saw Jackson,
Okay,
and it
yeah, that was
wasn't
a big
just
fist pump in our house too.
like a one and done. Like he was featured prominently in the one episode, and then I think he comes back in another one. But that one to me, because like I remember getting the comic books when I was a kid. I liked Jackson. I always have.
Hmm.
Tom Rosie, who over here he's with the 501st Midwest Garrison, does a really great Jackson cosplay for Joliet Star Wars Day and some other thing. So I always enjoy
Nice.
kind of seeing that, and just that was just kind of fun. I would say also I really enjoyed Ashley Eckstein's return as Ahsoka Tano and a Brickheads.
Yes, yes.
That was really awesome. I mean, I think the one I was maybe a little disappointed. I would have loved to have seen a little more of the Landalorian because I
Okay,
do
yeah,
think that I thought it was teased a little more. I think only because I mean, Billy D. Williams, the eternal Billy D. Williams. We were very blessed that he got a chance to do this. I think they should have maybe like give him a little more prominent role, or at least as like go along, because not only it would help support Mandalorian and the Grogu movie,
Mm,
but
yeah.
you've got a legend in there, and I mean, obviously Mark Hamill's in there as well, but Mark Hamill's not as old as Billy Dee Williams. But I think that would have been fun. I think I would just love to see just a little bit more. I mean, same thing. Alan Tudyk, K2SO. That was
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. I don't think I remember that from whether it was in the trailer or not. But
They
that
didn't
was
announce that at all. I tell you that. That was an interesting, like, oh, hey, that's a different take on K2.
same thing with Cameron Monaghan, which I know would be. See, that's another one where it was like he got a couple of lines. It was awesome to see, and I think even he probably was just thrilled to kind of be a part of the greater whole. And I think with all these
Yeah,
characters, like you get Ahmed Best as Darth Jar Jar, you know, seeing all these different ones, that was really great, because it kind of feels like, yeah, you're a part of this big horde of characters, and it's kind of fun to bring you in. I mean, even Nika Fetterman, Asajj Ventress got in there just a little
mm,
bit, but I would say, one
little
hands
hint, yeah.
down, yeah, Jackson was just near and dear to my heart. But I mean, it was amazing the number. Like I had to take screenshots with another device to kind of go over this. One, I'm probably going to need it for a show upcoming with Greg, but just to kind of go back and go, oh my gosh, I didn't really, like, how many voices did D. Bradley Baker do? You know,
Oh my gosh.
it was nuts. Kelly Marie Tran coming back,
Mhm.
as Darth Rose Tico, uh, and but I would say the one I wish I knew Michael Cusack a little better. The voice of Servo. I just did not have that kind of connection because I just don't know the actor or the comedian that well, and so I'm like, it was
Sure.
a fun character. It was fun his thing with the probe
Yeah,
droid,
that little love
uh,
interest, yeah.
but it just didn't. I don't think it hit with me because I just didn't know. I just wasn't familiar with his other work, and so I love me some Gonks, but I probably would have liked it a lot more had I known a little more about him.
Got it, got it. Yeah, Jackson, big win. Big inclusion in the show. I believe Ben Schwartz did the voice, if I was not mistaken. Uh,
Mm,
Sonic, maybe? Maybe? I'm pretty sure that was, if I can remember
Ben
correctly, I
Schwartz,
think that's
yes,
the
Ben
voice.
Schwartz did
Wow, look
Jackson.
at
Yeah.
that. I was right. Ben Schwartz, Sonic the Hedgehog himself, doing Jackson, which I think is a big win for us. Like, hey, you remember this fun, wacky character from the comics in the 70s? Kevin
Yeah, I'm a deep
Scott's
cut.
big cut. Yeah, that he likes to include in any comic that he gets a chance to, just to make sure that he's canon in some way. And yeah, we got Jackson in this. I gotta tell you, my big standout, like similar to you, was Brickhead Ahsoka. Like that was
Mm,
making me laugh every time that she was on screen and talking, and the way that they just, that's where you're like, I can't take this seriously, and that's a good thing, right? That
mhm,
is that permission to say, like, I'm having a good time here. I'm allowed to laugh. I'm allowed to check all the baggage of canon and whatnot, all the fandom wars of the last couple of years at the door. I'm here to just enjoy a good Star War, learn some themes, see these wacky characters out in these incredible environments, right? Uh, and just have a good time with this thing. And that was, I think, the character that gave me the most permission to do that. Now, another fun thing I wanted to also note too is how awesome it was to see Porg goals. I'm Porgles, the
yes.
Porg Purgles. I think that was a brilliant combination. And lastly, on this front, I did want to note that it was really cool to see um, uh, Pirate Padme.
Pirate Queen, yeah.
That was a fun little play on things, and then also the first time that I can think of that we got the full Skywalker family in a
Yes.
image together, which I was like, that's a win. Let's do this. Like, get the gang together, and that was great. That put a smile on my face. I thought, oh, I don't think I've ever seen all of them together at one time. Thank you, Lego, for making that happen, and I'll take the win on that.
Two things. The other nice thing about the Brickheads was is the fact that, she fought and moved around as a Brickhead does, and so they kind of
Hmm.
adhered to their own laws per se. And when she gets in the
Yeah.
droideka, she's the only one that fits in the droideka, which I thought was very great.
Oh,
But
yes.
something I had to pause 3 or 4 times to go back and see when she's like, "I thought I was the only one from my universe still here." It's the Rebels crew because there is Hera, there is Ezra, and there is Sabine, and I was like, that is you can't even blink because you're gonna miss it, but I thought that was a great touch, Just
It
like
was.
with the larger Lego figures of Chewbacca and
Yep.
K2SO, which I really liked. And I love the fact that the battle droids were the army in it. And I was like, that's pretty nice.
Mhm.
Um, I probably said after season one, I could have lived. I had my fill of the clone Akbars, which I liked, but I was like, okay, that was a gag that I'm really glad they didn't lean on too much in this one. I'm like, okay, we there's a lot of other things you can play with. You saw them, but it wasn't one of those where I'm like, okay, it didn't, they didn't belabor that point. But I did like the fact that you know seeing some of those, and then especially after collecting a number of brickheads, it was nice to see them in there.
Brickheads got their day in the sun with this series, I can tell you
Hmm.
that. Maybe they'll the value of brickheads have gone up just ever so slightly by maybe 50 cents because of this. Based on how this set of episodes concluded, what are the possibilities that you think we will see a season 3 for Rebuild the Galaxy: Pieces of the Past, putting the pieces back together? Keep adding to this line, this
I know.
long title.
I don't know if I mean, like I think we've had two series where the galaxy was, like pulled apart and put back together. I think that they have really worn that one down. It
Yep.
would be curious to see another adventure, and like all the character, all the pieces are in place, as it were. But I like them to try something else because I think with the Void, I'm like, okay, like yes, we're it's great, that was an interesting thing, and I also liked how they kept kind of turning on it to go, nope, this one's for real. But
Mm,
I don't know if they could do another, I think it'd be interesting to find another type of story or another type of thing that, okay, maybe now Daz and Dev, or excuse me, Sig and Dev, sorry, Dev,
Second up, yep.
uh, Sig and Dev, that they could be working together, or at least they're not going to be, well, he's going to go apart and going to come back together. But I think that another story, I think it'd be a tricky one, but I think it'd be fun, just
Mhm.
because they seem to kind of weave through a lot of the different story elements of the movies. And I kind of felt there's some Return of the Jedi going in there.
Yeah.
There was some of the, Rise of Skywalker in there. By the way, the BB wings, chef's kiss. Those were really
Another
well
big
done.
win. Yep.
Um, this time it wasn't just the mashup ones, but I mean, the X fighters and the Y wing, or the tie wings or whatever. But I thought that was really clever, and a great way to introduce, to BB-8 in there. But yeah, I think I'd love to see another series. I'd love to see if there's another way you can do it, because it seems like you'd have infinite ways that you can take pieces of your own movies and
Yeah.
shows, weave them in there, make this crazy story, but it's going to work because it's Lego.
Yeah, I agree. I there is more of a cliffhanger, I guess, to lean towards a season 2 after season 1 than there is for this one to potentially say, "Hey, let's have a season 3." It felt very much like a concluding story. There
Hmm.
wasn't, like, a whole lot of leftover threads to be like, "Well, where are we gonna go from here, guys?" No, it seemed very much like Solidus is defeated, and we're here in this new galaxy, and Sig and Dev are back together, and they're living their lives, right? I don't think maybe the only story just spitballing is to try and go back to the way things were, if that's even possible, or try to find that way and put everyone back in their own universe again. And then you get to see all those different worlds. Maybe.
You could almost do a Last Jedi. You could do a sequel trilogy where maybe Sig now is trying to teach, young builders, and it
Hmm.
goes awry, and you get a little Kylo. We don't really
Oh,
see a Kylo Ren in this, but something along those lines, like a little Ben. Hey, we've got the rest of the Skywalker family. Why not Ben Solo? And then they have, these little breakers go run amok, and then they have to work together to kind of
hmm.
put them back in there. Now that would be, like I said, you can weave in and out of these stories, and if you can take elements from here and take elements from there, much like the galaxy itself. So that could be something you could do, that I think
Absolutely.
people would, and people would kind of go, "Oh yeah, they're doing that," and I think that makes it enjoyable. Just like when you see, like the what ifs, or some of these other ones where you see,
Hmm.
"Oh yeah, there's that character, because like who doesn't want to see it?" Like just put some of the Darth, put Darth Jar Jar back out there. I'm like, yeah, I'm completely like, and then they show up, and that's all that really needs to happen. It's like, okay, just they have another fight. We see Darth Nibs, excuse me. Um, why not?
And, can't forget Darth Jar Jar with the, Maul spider legs
Ah,
from Clone Wars too, like, what a what a concoction that they've created. Um, I like that. I think that they have definitely, if we're spitballing ideas, and they're certainly spitballing ideas for various ways that they can continue this thing, and if they do, great, we'll do an episode on it. Excited to see what they can conjure up, and if they wanna do something else and maybe find another holiday to talk about or create a whole new gang of people and tell a different story in the Star Wars universe, by all means. I don't think the partnership with LEGO and Star Wars is done anytime soon. It's far too lucrative and
hmm.
it's far too popular, and Lego just continues to keep being more popular than ever. You go to these conventions, and it's very pricey to see a fully boxed Lego kit somewhere, and they sell out. And you go to the Lego store here at Disney Springs, and it always has a line going out. And you see people walking around with these huge yellow bags with the red Lego logo on it, so it's certainly a thing that really captures people's imaginations, and there's just something about it that keeps us coming back to the well every time.
Well said. Well
Well,
said.
Greg, I do have one last question for you, and you
Hmm.
are by name the Rebel Base card, so you are by nature a card guy. If you
Yep.
could have a card for any character in this series, who would you want and why?
I'd have to go back to my boy Jackson. I would love to have his card. I, you know, it's interesting because with Topps Chrome 2025 out, and of course the higher end Sapphire version of that, as I think
Oh,
it has been out now. There was 200 base cards, and so there was a lot of characters from a lot, not only from the newer shows like the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, um, but some of the other characters, and it would be fun in a set like that has 200. So you have a lot of characters you can pull from. I would take anybody from rebuilding the galaxy. I could definitely see a
mhm.
Sig or a Dev in there, but I'd love to see it because I know that oddly enough I did somewhere years ago. There were some Lego Star Wars cards, and I think I have a Lego Zeb card. I think it
Ah,
was
nice.
I think it was a German set that put out some cards based on those characters. But I would love to see a Jackson version of one of those, and I think you know, heck, put the Brickheads Ahsoka to do that. That would be a fun one right there. Um, and do a tie-in, do a promo set where like it
Yeah.
just comes out. They do a partnership with like say a Subway or because they did that for
Hmm.
Rebels, by the way. Um,
Oh, cool.
just kind of fun set out there, and I think it'd be fun to promote that. Put them in with the sets as well. Why not? Because just like we got with the Darth Falcon, I'm curious if we would see them put out another set for rebuilding the galaxy. I think there's room on the shelves for them because they're always cycling in and out sets. But that would be fun, and because also if you remember, Disney Infinity also did cards
Hmm.
that
Yep.
were included with the figures. I just came across them as I was, kind of like breaking out the set and playing a little bit. But those are kind of fun, and you don't really think about them as being, oh yeah, this is something that's in stores. So you throw them in there with a figure or a Lego set. And I think that'd be fun.
I think that's brilliant. That's brilliant synergy and a great tie-in possibility. Give me a reason to go to Subway. I don't need one, but I will certainly take any opportunity I can. That really drives that point home, right? I think the Denny's, right? Denny's got cards when the
Ah,
solo menu came
the
out, right? What
good
a
old
great
days, I'm
tie-in.
telling you.
Yeah, that was
Ah,
that
the good
was
old
the good old
days.
times. Yeah, I know.
I
And give me a Lego Therm scissor punch to keep this. That's the main character for the next one. Come on, guys,
oh,
it's right there for the taken. I would love a Jackson card. Would love the Brickhead Ahsoka, like you said. The Porgle. Come on, come on, guys. That's the thing of nightmares right there. It's coming for you.
I think it'd be
Those would be
interesting to
blessed.
see. Yeah, even like a comic version, like if you have like, is it the IDW? If you did some
Yep.
continuing adventures, now that you kind of have a good sense of who these characters are and the universe they're in,
Yeah, good foundation.
um,
Yeah.
Yeah, you could really, I think I think it still has some legs on it, although, like I said, like we've been kind of talking, I think some of the bigger ones they might have, maybe have taken that a little too far, but I think some side adventures in another medium and some supporting
That's right.
accessories would be fun and very collectible if I'm on
That's a
brand
really good
here.
point. I didn't even think about the possibility of other ways that they could tell the story. I think, yeah, those young, not necessarily, I guess, middle grade reader comics, right? The Dark Horse line that they are currently doing is kind of that realm, um, where they could expand the story even further, or maybe even shorts, right? Not even just long
Hmm.
form, just like, they were very big on those shorts when Rebels first came out and kinda did that kinda thing for a while. I mean, heck, 5 to 10-minute episodes on a quick little adventure that they have could be a great avenue by which to do this, and they
Oh yeah.
do that occasionally, right? I think they have a couple of short specials on, Disney Plus already where they kinda just recap the original Star Wars and the prequel trilogies and such through those means, and the LEGO brand of humor, I think, just kinda works for that, so they can certainly have many avenues by which other than if they don't wanna continue with 4 half-hour-long episodes every year or so. But hey, they got time, and, I'm excited with what we got both seasons here, and, who knows? Sky's the limit for where they can go with the future of these things, and, Greg, it's been a blast having you on to chat about, all the wacky, wild, and adventurous nature that is LEGO Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy: Pieces of the Past. Say that name 4 times fast.
Oof.
And
I'll let you do it. I'll let you do
yeah. Greg, where can the folks find you and all the episodes that you have on your, hard drive
it.
waiting to be released to the world if they wanna continue the conversation?
If it was the weekend prior to us recording, you would have found me in Ocala, the horse capital of the world. But where you find me and my laptop, running around here at the Rebel Base Card, and you can find me on X, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can email the program, Greg at rebelbasecard.com. You can find me on Threads and Blue Sky. Um, Desperately trying to get these programs out. We've got a lot of programming coming up. We're talking to a lot of great people, including yourself. But that's the great thing about these. They are they are evergreen in some cases. So it's been a lot of fun. I was kind of curious. I was kind of a little worried after the summer. Would I have what would I be talking about? Because we've had the one big Star Wars release and all that. But no, it's a never ending well, and there'll always be great people to talk to and great content to talk about. So, and it's fun to get to be on the other side, to get to talk to folks and let someone else edit for a change, where I'm just going through.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you thought that, you'd just be doing a second look at Andor, right, over the next couple of weeks and
Oh
months
yeah,
here.
like nothing
You
major.
thought you had 12 weeks of set content across week to
I
week
got
on this one.
I got one done, one out there, and one in the can. Craig Dickinson from Reading Between the Reels came on, and that was it was fun to kind of get a chance to talk with him for the
Awesome.
first time. So yeah, it's lots of stuff that just got to get. It's easy to talk, folks. It's hard to edit.
I will say on our last week's episode, your co-host Greg Cass teased that upcoming episode, and I joked, "Oh, it must have been really easy to figure out Greg, and Craig on the same episode." Oh, but I digress. I can't wait to hear it. Sounds like I mean it's a great group of guys, and I'm excited to hear your all thoughts on that as Andor becomes more and more necessary with each passing day. Emmy award winning Andor too, by the way, 5-time Emmy award winner, and one for great writing for good reason. So heed the words of
Oh yeah,
Andor.
and a good
And
episode, very much worthy of that Emmy too.
Absolutely, yes. And folks, thank you for diving back into the Star Wars of it all. And guess what? Next week, we're continuing the Star Wars trend on the Star Wars podcast. We got Jen Subchakchai Bankard from the Long Take Review coming on to talk about the Ahsoka episodes from Tales of the Jedi. And with that, once we're done with that episode, I'll be able to wipe Tales of the Jedi off of the whiteboard because it's just been on there for, well, almost 3 years now.
The
So
whiteboard is your hard drive.
that ink has fully dried on that thing, so that's gonna just permanently be a mark of Tales of the Jedi, just to always stare me in the face as I look at the whiteboard for future episodes, both in here and in the future. So be on the lookout for that one in your podcast feeds next weekend, and may the force be with you. Take care.